do what we need to make it work. So I'll go through some of these. One leader, one community. Okay, so this principle or this ideal is the ideal where you as one person can go into any community and change that community for the better. You know what you need to do, you know how to inspire people, you've got all the skills that you need, and you have the right plans to do it. So that's what our youth leaders and our youth staff work towards, because most of our staff, as you'll see later on, come through the leadership program there. Sacrifice and commitment. So a lot of our staff sacrifice a lot of their time and are committed to what they do. They see the value of it. They have to challenge accepted practices, ideas, and always have in your mind what you're trying to achieve. Go to the people. So a lot of our programs aren't everybody comes to the centre, we go out, and one of the things that we pride ourselves on is the fact that a lot of the youth that are in our programs don't know where the centre is, never have been to the centre, but see us always out in the community. Youth-led, so the whole staff of the centre comes from the programs that we've come through. Like I've seen a lot of youth programs where the coordinators have to do all the work, and they put these young people in front to take the credit, and we sort of had to do that early on, but we got over that quite quickly and gave them real responsibilities. Challenging and criticising and justifying and explaining. A good leader has to be able to justify and explain their actions, because their life is going to be in the open eventually. So not just in the time that they're in program, but their whole life. And so we've created an atmosphere where it's possible to challenge and criticise young people for their actions. And the higher that they get within the leadership program, for example, the more they will justify and explain how they act, what they do, etc. Openness and honesty. So we encourage and foster a real sense of openness and honesty. Being there for people, always being there. And I guess that generates the question of how do you move on then, but there is a way to do that. The three principles of the Edmund Rice Network are presence, compassion and liberation. And I would like to think that our youth programs embody all of those. Aim for perfection. So we set the bar really high for the young people who want to achieve the most. A lot of the time when like youth programs will set the bar low, they cater for a big group of people, but they don't offer development stages in there. Again, success is about human interaction, it's not about programs. I've seen a lot of programs where a worker has done a really, really good job and generated a huge amount of enthusiasm, and then they've left, someone's taken over the same program and it's died. And having a stake in each other's lives, and I'll get to one of the programs where that's the principle behind it, and it's worked really well. So the strategies. One of the underlying strategies and the unique ones is that if the principle is sound, then you never give up. Like you always try and make a principle that sound work by trying new ideas, and that brings life into a program. Cater for everybody up to the highest level, and make sure that you have pathways for development. So a lot of our programs start on the streets, in the parks, and then we build in development opportunities all the way up to, well, we've got some of our players playing waffle football at the moment. So that's all built in. Okay, look after everybody as an individual. Guide the journey. I mean, how do you have 200 kids and look after each one as an individual? There is a way to do that. Work hard and inspire others through sacrifice. I think when I look at my staff and the people around who are youth leaders and volunteers, they inspire me, and that's what keeps me going. And build into your program something that allows them to achieve their fullest potential. Look after every stage of a person's development, all the way up into as high as they can go, and I'll give you some individual stories later on about how high some of these kids are going. Also question and challenge, teach and learn. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Take advice, but never lower the bar of expectation. Okay, so keep that bar really high, and then fit in everything under that needs to be fit in. So we use this one a lot. We teach a lot of civil resistance and non-violence. We also teach confrontation. how to confront people. When they're doing, one of the things I really hated seeing when I went out and did a youth program is kids doing the wrong thing, graffiti and carrying on, and nobody challenging them. So how do you challenge somebody that's doing those kind of things? When do you challenge them? Discipline also in youth programs, quite missing from a lot of programs. Again, different levels of engagement require different levels of discipline. Like grassroots, not much, but high performance, quite a great deal. And this is another big one. Always see what you're doing in the big picture. Look at the past, present, and future at the same time. Remind people of the change that they're making and help them believe in themselves that they can change the world. So our staff, leaders, volunteers, everybody's constantly being reminded about what they're doing and what context they're doing it in. And again, we'll get to some of the actual practicalities of this soon. Holistic, many programs, many contact times. We'll see young people 4 or 5 times a week at different programs, because that's just the nature of young people, and that's just the nature of sort of grassroots programs. And this is another one. Competition fuels ingenuity. So we had a youth leadership group in Mirrabooka. It was good. It was the best of the best. And then I felt they were getting complacent, so I went to Butler and formed another youth leadership group and set them up in competition with each other. Now that's healthy competition. Yeah, I still maintain the support of I still support the Mirrabooka group, but they're running it on their own. And the Butler group is taking things by storm, and it's growing, and they support each other, but there's also the sense of competition there. So I'll just take you through some of the successes of some of the programs. So this idea of the local parks multi-sport program, again, the principle here is that a kid can walk onto a park and that's it. They can go all the way up to the highest levels of sport. All barriers are removed, everything is taken care of. So we've got, like, for example, the captain of the East Perth Eagles came out to train our street basketball team, and he's just made the Wildcats. We've got many sort of development programs in place for people off of the local parks. The ERC Lions, again, a huge sort of list of first multicultural AFL team in Australia to play a full season, first African female AFL coach, first Africans to work at the WA Footy Commission, the Young Lions, over 150 participants, 10 coaches. One of the principles is that they can only play 1 year and they have to move on to coaching or other opportunities. Lions All-Stars, we had, some of you would have heard of Susan Chewett. She was the first African female to represent WA. She takes to the Lions. Again, the Butler Falcons, the first female African AFL team, over 16 regular players. They've played matches, camps, the AFL ambassadors. They've got 3 players already moved on to the local club. Banksia United, an Aboriginal soccer team coached by young Africans. And again, that's that idea that the Africans have a stake in the lives of the Aboriginal kids, and the Aboriginal kids have a stake in the lives of the Africans. So that's where that principle holds. So these are some of the pictures. As you can see from that sort of range of pictures, the opportunities that are given to these kids are immense. Playing on Subiaco Oval. That was one of the best days of my life, watching Peter walk Kevin Rudd through all the introductions of the players, and he did that, and look at how calm he is, and look at how, in his element he is. This was the 2011 coaching staff of the Edmund Rice Lions. They all now work at the West Australian Football Commission, and they've all been offered extensions to their roles into 2014. This is Bella. She's the first African AFL female football coach in the country, as far as we're aware. And again, the experiences. I guess this is the. Okay. So I guess this is more the office and the youth leader side of things. We've got 25 youth leaders who are passionate, give volunteer time, and are professional. All of our youth staff have come through the programs into professional roles. There's an atmosphere of hard work, passion, sacrifice and professionalism in the centre, in the youth office. The youth staff and youth leaders run all of our programs. We've got partnerships with SSAs. We've got 3 trainees in the WACA. We've got 1 at the WA one at the WACA, three at the WAFC, one at the WACA, and we've just had one of the girls get funding from BCP to run another local parks program in Banksia Grove. So that's growing. And they're all running successful, life-changing programs. Once we pick the kids up at the grassroots, they can develop within the programs all the way to the highest level. If you walk into the centre on a Friday, you'll see 8, 9 young people from refugee migrant backgrounds working and running the whole host of programs that we've got. Edmund Rice Youth are never far away, and I'll just talk about one of the stories. We have 2 young people who came through the lines and are now playing waffle grade football. One plays for East Perth and one plays for Subiaco. They're always at the centre. They're always visiting. They're always there to get help and help us doing our programs. And so they're never far away. They don't leave. These are some more of the opportunities, I guess, and the sort of things that they've been up to. So this is Banksia United. You can see the first African coaches up there and the new young African coaches. These girls are amazing. They're planning the whole presentation night for Banksia, and it looks like they're going to take over the whole program. So the Premier coming to our local parks program. Travis Dodd from The Glory. We had an Indigenous soccer carnival that they were there at. This picture is, I like this kind of picture because Tot is a youth leader, and he was about 18 at that stage, and he's teaching the Keys to Life program. Now that program was run by a 17-year-old who liaised with the government, ordered the materials, set up the promotion and everything, and worked with STERA to sort of run this program for refugee migrant adults. And I guess the thing I like to point out is look at the age of the teacher and look at the age of the students. And then the Butler Falcons, that was a very joyous occasion when they ran out into international round. Where the Guard of Honour was formed by the West Coast Football Club, and so that was a huge sort of experience for them. So what I'd like to do now is play a commercial that we made with the Butler Falcons. I think this commercial sort of embodies what passion comes to these programs. And
My name is Maria. I'm from Africa. I came to Australia and I love NFL.
As the girls celebrate, Maria Baker from the Butler Falcons. The distinctive celebrations of the Butler Falcons after the goal, you gotta love that.
My name is Joyce. I'm from Africa and I love AFL.
Joyce Eugenia, watch this tackle. Joyce goes up and takes it to Riverfront.
My name is Helen. I'm from Africa and I love AFL.
Helen Santino, strong, and running into an open goal as a result.
We are the Butler Falcons. We came to Australia. We love AFL. Come join us.
thank you very much.
We need to press on. Alicia Baskis from the University of Western Australia is here. And her project is Housing and Neighbourhood Experiences of Recently Arrived Humanitarian Entrants, Perspectives from Perth and Melbourne.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. I'm a research assistant at the Centre for Social Impact at UWA, and I've been working on an Ahuri research project called refugees, housing and social inclusion in Australia. Okay, so for the,
No, you've got to use the mouse there.
oh, the mouse button.
Just use the left mouse button.
The project is aiming to examine housing careers of humanitarian refugees and address the issue of whether refugees in their first years in Australia access and sustain secure and suitable long-term housing. It looks at the barriers to housing experienced by humanitarian entrants, the role of neighbourhood in the achievement of housing outcomes, and the economic opportunity, social inclusion and wellbeing outcomes achieved by humanitarians. And it will also be looking at the extent to which specialist housing and homelessness services, together with other services, facilitate successful settlement for humanitarian entrants. Today I'll just be talking about one element of the project. There's a lot that the project's doing. A systematic review of housing and other policies, a 3-year longitudinal survey, which I'll be reporting on today, a transit walk, which is a mobile interview through a delimited territory. They've occurred in Perth and Melbourne, focus group discussions, a cross-sectional study of recently arrived refugees experiencing homelessness, and roundtables. So today I'll just be running through some preliminary findings from our wave 1 of the survey, Refugees, Housing and Social Inclusion. So this survey was completed between August and November last year with the assistance of bilingual workers. We had the support from MMRC here in Perth and the Footscray Community Centre in Melbourne. We ended up with 85 surveys, 44 from Melbourne and 41 from Perth. Most of the surveys in Perth were completed within about a 5 to 10k radius of where we are this afternoon, so the Balgonia and Booker areas. In Melbourne, they were mainly completed in Melbourne's west, so areas like Footscray, Sunshine, and we also had quite a few from Dandenong. So we were interested in finding out where people were living at the time of the survey, and most people were in a private rental property, so it's pretty similar in Perth and Melbourne, 85% in Perth and 84% in Melbourne. This is pretty consistent with findings from a much larger study than ours. The Living in Australia survey was completed with over 5,000 humanitarian entrants, and 81% of those respondents were also in a private rental. But we wanted to know a little bit more about their accommodation experience, so we got the bilingual workers to complete an accommodation calendar with respondents. And this is to find their main living situation for basically every 2 weeks in the previous year. So it's just roughly trying to capture where people have been staying. If you've got a short stay, stay with friends and relatives for 1 or 2 nights, that won't be captured in the survey, but your main living situation for those 2 weeks would be. So we looked at a range of living situations, such as private rental, your own home, community housing, and living in institutional settings such as school or prison, as well as fairly precarious living situations such as in boarding houses and housing for the homeless, such as men's shelters and women's refuges. What we found from the calendar is that most of our respondents, well 85% of those who are currently in a private rental, had been in a private rental for all of the past year, which does indicate that a good number of people that we sampled had been able to maintain what's generally considered long-term accommodation for a reasonable amount of time. No one had reported being living for in precarious living situations, such as on the streets and tents or in cars and boarding houses, and no occasions of living in an institutional setting were reported from our sample. We do know from our focus group discussions that there's a very different world out there, but in terms of the sample we gathered, we didn't get reports of that. What we did find was that close to 1 in 10, it was 9%, were either at the time of the survey in the past 12 months living with family or friends as they had nowhere else to live. This is a form of homelessness, generally known as secondary homelessness, and it does indicate that without the support of friends and family, these people could be in more distressing forms of homelessness. Average household size, Melbourne respondents and Perth respondents is pretty much the same, 4.5 people per house. And when you look at how this compares to the Australian Greater Perth and Greater Melbourne average, it's all 2.6. So there's a bit of a difference there. And then when you look at housing affordability, you've got families that are a bit larger than the general Australian family. Here in this row, we've got the respondents median weekly rental. In fact, it's $350 and Melbourne is $300. And you can see we've got some figures for what the median weekly rental is in the general metropolitan areas, so Perth and Melbourne. And you can see it's much higher, so larger families are having to struggle to find appropriate sized housing, and they're definitely going for the lower end of the market. I also included some vacancy rates, so you can get an indication of the competition that they're facing out there in the rental market as well. And just looking at that, you can see it's a bit tougher in Perth than it is for Melbourne. This was reflected in when we asked how people felt about housing affordability and how it affected their access to housing. It's a pretty big barrier for both groups, both Perth and Melbourne respondents. However, it's a bit more of the case for those in Perth. You can see that 40% strongly agree that rent has been a difficulty when finding housing for Perth respondents compared to 16% in Melbourne. Naturally, the cost of buying a house is a lot more prohibitive. Despite struggling a bit with affordability in Perth, they're a little bit happier with the quality of their housing. So it was interesting. We did get fairly high levels of people reporting that they were either satisfied or very satisfied with their current home. It's a little bit lower when we asked about their standard of housing since coming to Australia. In our next survey, we're going to try and investigate problems people have been having with their houses in a little bit more detail. Moving on to the neighbourhood part of the survey, connections to community. The networks within ethnic community are very strong for new arrivals, and when you compare it to within the local neighbourhood, you can see that the importance ethnic community plays for relatively new arrivals. Just quickly here, this in Perth and Melbourne, most people had, to some degree, been made to feel welcome in Australia. However, one of the biggest differences we noticed was 29% of Perth residents compared to 66% of Melbourne residents felt part of mainstream Australian social and cultural life. And that's a pretty significant difference. Perceptions of discrimination, much higher when looked at for Australia-wide when compared to their own neighbourhood. Just flash through a few more slides. Feelings of trust. Again, Melbourne respondents reported high levels of trust. Some of their levels of trust for things such as doctors, hospitals and police are approaching general Australian percentages. And safety, again, this is sort of reversed. It's a percentage of people who disagree to feeling safe in the following
Oh, so Perth is much more unsafe.
It's a bit more, yeah, a bit more unsafe than Melbourne. Yeah, that's just there. But what is influencing this one a bit is that we did have more female respondents in Perth, and it is general, yeah, some of these are taken from the general social survey, and women on average tend to feel less safe than men, so that could be influencing this one.
I think where they live as well, the suburbs and the areas, that would have...
Yeah, yeah. So there you go. I think those results probably raise more questions than they answer, but yeah, sorry.
That's a quick, in the one about whether or not they felt welcome in Australia,
Yes.
how do you qualify? How did they qualify feeling welcome? Was that related to settlement services or what?
It was just a general question that asked, have you been made to feel welcome in Australia? And the response options range from, yes, I've been made to feel a little welcome, to I've been made to feel a lot welcome. So there was a range of answers, and I just included from a little welcome in that, so that the people, I think it would be probably 2 people in the entire sample had not been made to feel welcome at all. But yeah, there wasn't anything.
What was the sample, sorry?
8 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Alicia. So we've got a packed program. So we are now to welcome James Barrett from the Smith family, and James is going to present about Hall youth engagement in education and training. Thank you.
I know.
I feel a bit like I'm in a support group here. My name is James, I'm a migrant. I came here 3 years ago. I wasn't allowed to work for 6 months.
Which one is it?
Oh, so it's in that.
Is that third one?
Yeah, it is.
Where is it?
No, it's,
It's in a... Is that what it is?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Is it in a folder or is it a separate?
Maybe,
Oh, sorry.
oh no, it's completely true actually. And I came here, I migrated here because I got married to my wife's from WA. And so I moved here. From the UK. Yeah, originally, but before I lived here, before I moved here, I was living in Thailand. I worked in Thailand for 10 years. So I had that experience of being a foreigner in another country, which is quite interesting as well. So there's quite a few things that resonate. How ambiguous? That's quite.
Just click on it and go down. I was doing it. You may have to
So the Smith family is a national charity, and I'm actually going to show you a few slides about the national picture because some people may not know us very well. A lot of people in the eastern states know us because we've been operating there for a much longer time. But we're not specifically, focused on cold families, which is a kind of interesting part of what I'm going to talk about. So this is part of one of our national advertising campaigns, and this is how we present ourselves. to the public and how we raise money, really, on the strength of helping ordinary Australian families. And this is kind of what we're all about, and I really like this slide actually because it really does help to explain where we see ourselves as an organisation helping the education of children. So we aim to provide support for children and young people all the way through